Hey, this is Helen Paradise from SoCal, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. Broadcasting from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If this is the week that you have set the touch tones into effect or have a well-crafted email to blast off to me, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now, the second Tuesday in the first hour of the month of Tuesday. I got lost in myself there. Of course, the creator of AmazingRibs.com, Meathead, will be joining us. We will be covering such hot topics as what I like to term as the business of barbecue. Traeger has made a lot of news in the last number of weeks. Weber has attempted to make some news in the last number of weeks. So there's business to be talked about there. Then we will take it out of the bull-bear ring and we will go straight into the garden where everybody loves to live. And we'll talk about dishes that you may or may not be considering, especially if you are one who fashions themselves a green thumb and keeps a garden during the winter or during the summer months. And things are coming in rapidly as they do with gardens. So Meathead will be here to help us and guide us through the garden and to what we might want to make with the fruits of our labor. And then we will move to the second hour, where I will be joined by a first-timer to the show. I think this makes, what is it now, 3 months in a row where we've had at least one new guest here on the show. 2021 is spawning the new guest movement. The likes the show is rarely ever seen, but we have a new guest coming in. And look, this is a barbecue and grilling show. I've said it before, I say it again, but it's not always about barbecue and grilling. So if you can't get down with what I'm going to do in the second hour, that's certainly your choice. You can tune out. You could not listen to it on podcast, whatever. But go ahead and blame it on Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Embedded Correspondent. I'm sorry, Texas Monthly Barbecue Editor, quarterly correspondent or quarterly guest here on the show. But blame it on Daniel for the content that I'm going to bring you in the second hour. Because as we were talking off air a number of months ago, and we were talking about podcasts that we like, he said, hey, have you ever checked out the Relative Unknown podcast? And I told him no, and he had mentioned that there was a Cleveland connection, so obviously that set the hook. So I at least listened to the first episode, and within the first number of minutes, I was immediately in hook, line, and sinker. I think it's 10, 11, 12 episodes. It's a podcast documentary, I guess. So it's not like this show where it's just ongoing, but it is a true life story. And I will be joined by the lady that narrates it, and really that the whole story revolves around. There's certainly a major player in the game that is not Jackie, but her father is somebody who has directly affected her life, both growing up, ongoing. And we'll talk to Jackie Taylor, first-timer to the show, about her father and the story that she put together with Cadence 13. and we'll talk about the WITSEC program. Are you familiar with the WITSEC program? That's witness protection. And I think 99.78% of us have no idea what it actually involves other than what we see on TV. And typically on TV, it's at the end of a cop program where somebody has done the right thing and turned on somebody else and they are sent off to be protected for the rest of their life. But nobody knows what that looks like. Nobody knows what day number 2 or even day number 1 looks like in witness protection. And Jackie's been living it since she's 8 years old, 9 years old. So she can tell us all about it. She can tell us all the pitfalls that are happening and what her life has been like and the troubles that she's had. Look, she's been dealt a horrible hand right from birth with her dad and then into witness protection and what she's had to go through there. So it's going to be enlightening. It's going to be tragic in a certain degree, learning about Jackie's life and what she's had to endure. And hopefully we can use this platform to help shine more of a light and get more knowledge out to the masses on what the witness protection folks are going through. Because it's not necessarily the snitch or the turner that suffers. It's the families that have to go into that and are uprooted and stuck wherever they're stuck to assume new lives. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's been in the works for a number of months now. A huge fan. Again, it's Relative Unknown. You can find it on all the podcast platforms. It is a listen that you should be doing tomorrow, immediately, after you re-listen to this show. So that's what's happening. Meathead coming up here shortly. Jackie Taylor from Relative Unknown in the second hour. Follow me socially if you would. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at BBQ Central Show. Snapchat at BBQ Central. I've been giving you the wrong handle for years. I guess I didn't pick BBQ Central Show for Snapchat, but I don't really use it anyway, so who cares? For live video feeds, you can find it Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show, also on YouTube /RD Rempe. There's also 2 free podcast, ad-free podcast feed options. You can become a patron over at the Patreon page, which is patreon.com /BBQ Central Show, or if you listen to Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe to an ad-free experience right in the app. If you live in or around Everett, Washington, at the end of the month, you might want to stop out at the semi-famous Dave Anderson's barbecue restaurant at the Everett Mall in Everett, Washington. It's the Pacific Northwest Barbecue sanctioned barbecue event. It's going to be judged by what they're terming KCBS trained judges, whatever that means. There will be free samples and other such goodness. So if you've always wanted to visit a barbecue contest, it is not.
Andrew, you are not.
It is not a KCBS sanctioned event. It is sanctioned by the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. Although they do throw KCBS in there for some reason. But if you've always wanted to see how a barbecue event works in some form or fashion, then get out to the Everett Mall in Everett, Washington, and check out that barbecue event at the semi-famous Dave's Barbecue Restaurant at the Everett Mall in Everett, Washington, August 29th. Also, because it is something that is continuing to sweep the nation, if you can believe it or not, the Mexican dish that people were laughing at me at. That's not Mexican, blah, blah, blah. It is chori pollo. Yes. Fan of the show, Brian Ashman, emailed this in the other day. That's right. That's a dish of chori pollo. You got beans and cheese there on the bottom right. You got your rice top right. And then taking up that whole left side of the plate, you got what is grilled chicken breast along with chorizo sausage, cheese melted on it. I'm sure there's some tortillas, probably just off on the right-hand side of that. You can see them in the aluminum foil. Mix all of it together, slam it in that tortilla. Oh, my God. It's a Mexican culinary treat, the likes you'll have never seen again. It's so good. You got to try chori pollo. Look for it on a Mexican menu near you. Delicious. Listener feedback before we get to Meathead. Mike in Florida writing, Greg, love the show and appreciate the content you put out each week. Wanted to piggyback on a few similar-minded emails over the last few weeks asking for a segment in the future that talks about the sound drops and the sound effects that you have used and still use during the show. I think the backstory on these would be fascinating. Put me in the quote-unquote wants to hear that list. By the way, last week, you got robbed in American Idol. Didn't I? But that's what happens when America votes. Mike, you are 100% correct. That's what happens when America votes. You might think that the results are going to come in one way. You might think that I sang way better than John did and that I should have won. But it doesn't matter. We put it out to America, and then America votes. This is a republic and a democracy. This is how it works here, both for contests here on the Barbecue Central show and in the country. We put out to a vote, and America speaks. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the vote. It was very close. I only lost by 8 votes. 8 votes! Maybe next year, I'm going to try really hard to sing even better than I did this year. And I don't know if that's possible. We congratulate John Solberg once again for being Season 2 champion. Before we get to Meathead, I'll talk to you quickly about Yoder Smokers. They design and build all of their products right here in the States, and building pride through craftsmanship and world-class customer service. That's the backbone of how they've built this company. The approach translates into what can be a truly bespoke style product that elevates gatherings with friends and family. They're honored to have a trusted place in the backyards of America. From pellet cookers to wood-fired offset pits or charcoal grills, consistent blue ribbon flavor has become synonymous with the Yoder Smokers brand. Make no mistake, Yoder Smokers' flavor-driven design is unique to each style of pit, and the team has developed their cookers to perform time and time again while outlasting the competition for generations to come. It's this generational thought that's rooted in the handmade products that define the integrity of the core values. American-made, quality, endless flavor. 2 benchmarks of the Yoder Smokers brand. Visit yodersmokers.com to grab yours today. That's yodersmokers.com. I mean, think of all of the championship pitmasters out there that have a Yoder's pellet cooker on their trailer somewhere. Use it as a low smoker. Use it as a chicken cooker. They are badass cookers. Look at Sam out of Sam's Northwest Barbecue. He's killing it selling Yoder Smokers right now. Go ahead, Sam. Browns fan, by the way. Shout out to Sam. We got a year coming now. yodersmokers.com. That's the place to go. We are back with Meathead right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by the Barbecue Guru, creators of automatic temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans, and accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit bbqguru.com or call them 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continuing to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. The second Tuesday of the month in the first hour can only mean one thing. The guy who created live fire fun and frivolity talk along with me, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Hey, Meathead!
Hey, how are you, Greg? And how are you, Centralites?
We are doing absolutely fabulous. We're following a number of different stories and breaking items here over the course of the last number of weeks, which I know we're going to talk perhaps ad nauseum. But it's
well, let's start with the fact you finally have Cleveland in the background instead of New York.
I don't know if you've ever seen my fair city, but here's the skyline of Cleveland.
I have been to your city, and that is Cleveland. Here's the Guardian City.
Here's number 1 of our skyscrapers. Here's the number 2. And here's the longest running one, number 3, Terminal Tower right here, everybody. That's our 3 skyscrapers right there. None going over 60 stories, of course, because we don't want to get crazy here. But that will rival any mediocre podunk Midwest town, I would imagine. I mean, look right here. Here's a parking garage right there. I mean, that's a great skyline. You love it, right? This is me.
At least
right?
you got parking.
Yes, that's right. I mean, you can take the bus if you want to, but this is the booming skyline
over Manhattan, which is what you used to have back there.
Yes, but I mean, Manhattan is a classic skyline. I think there's a lot of things attached to that. It lends some kind of professionalism in a global sense because it's iconic. People now will look at this background and go, "Did he move from somewhere? Where's that?" I mean, who knows? Whatever. As I had mentioned last month,
claiming your home.
It was long overdue, and really the fault lies with Amazon. And I became a little bit more. What do they say? Necessity is the mother of ingenuity, or something like that. And invention. So I went ahead and found my photographer guy here locally, and now look at me. I have this great banner behind me, and it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. All right, so we're going to be talking about... Yes, go ahead.
I got to warn you, by the way. Oh. We are experiencing a pretty nasty thunderstorm here.
Oh.
And tornado watches and warnings. So if I go dark, I'll try to catch up with you on my mobile. But you better be ready to sing and dance.
No problem. Always ready to sing and dance. I have hot topics to cover just in case a tornado would hit the Windy City. How weird would that be, where a tornado would hit the Windy City? It almost seems redundant to a certain degree. Well, if you get alerted, I mean, please make haste and get to your basements or wherever you need for safety, and we'll figure it out from there. So we're going to be talking about some garden stuff. We're going to be talking about some other items as well, but I wanted to start this evening because you were anxious to talk about some of the things that Traeger was up to last month with the buying of Meter, things of this nature, and fast forward a month ahead, that many things have happened since the purchase of Meter, not the least of which is Traeger and Weber going public. And I'm always interested when companies decide to make that jump. So let's go ahead and start with Traeger first, and let's back all the way up to when, before they made the announcement that they were going to go public, a few days before that, they had made the announcement that they had acquired Meter. Now, I have long been short of a hater on Meter because, not a full-blown hater, but short of a hater. A pretty big, this guy. A little casting that eye. Because what were they really good at, Meathead? Of course, number one, Meter was really good at generating crowdsourced funds, perhaps the likes we've never seen. Millions and millions of dollars. What did they fail at? Everything else after generating lots and lots of funds. Took forever to get the first versions out. They slowly trickled out. I don't even know why that is. I mean, can you imagine if Meter was hitting the ground now in production? You wouldn't see those things for 7 years, the way raw materials and labor and componentry are just completely unavailable at this point. However, years ago it was not the fact, but still they were slow. And then you can't really connect them to anything more than 9 or 10 feet away on a Bluetooth connection. And when the lid goes down on the grill, maybe it's not even 10 feet. And I have a number of people that have confirmed that as well. Their Wi-Fi bridge has been lackluster at best. They continue to try and come out with revisions that really aren't that good either. And what I hear is, and evidently it makes a 45 caliber hole in your meat because the thermometer gauge is very big. And what I hear over and over
here,
here's
show you. But
here's what I hear over and over. You can confirm or deny this. This idea is great. Everybody buys into the fact that the future is going to be wireless thermometering in some form or fashion. But maybe it's not there yet. And it would be, and what's really good at now is rotisserie cooking. If you're going to leave the top open, you're going to get a little extra distance. If you're not, you're going to have maybe the same crappy distance that you got. But otherwise, I'm not really hearing a lot of everybody's got to get one. I hear a lot of, maybe regret that they got it or it's not there yet. So you tell me about Meter and what you think.
Well, I hear about 50-50. When they first announced fundraising on crowdsourcing fundraising sites, and they used every one of the crowdsourcing fundraising sites, I bought in. I thought, well, this is great. This is a great concept. And I immediately bought in, and I bought in, of course, on the top of the line, the most expensive model, the 4-probe unit. I'm looking at one over here that's charging. And I thought it was a great idea. And so I think I spent 120, 150 bucks. I forget, whatever it was. And 2-3 years, I didn't hear a word.
Wow.
I wrote them. I didn't make a big deal of the fact that I ran a website and got paltry to nothing in the way of response. It was just terrible. I was beginning to think that they were just absconding with my money.
Yes.
Finally, they came out with the low-end models, and they started shipping them. And again, no communication to the people who bought the high-end models. And finally, they shipped the high-end models. I think it was like 3 years later. I forget. I tell the whole story on AmazingRibs.com. And we have this huge thermometer review database. We've got an electrical engineer who tests thermometers, and he's tested it and found that it lives up pretty much to their specifications. It does have a large hole. The problem is you have a lot of electronics to fit into a small tube in a very hot environment. I mean, if you're going to do a steak, those electronics have to be able to withstand temperatures in the 600-700 degree range. And that ain't easy. Now, if you insert it into a steak, which is 38 degrees coming out of the fridge, and you're going to cook it up to 130 medium rare, no problem. The electronics can take 130 degrees. But if it's protruding out into the atmosphere around there, it can be pretty badly damaged. So they had some serious technical problems to overcome. I believe they've overcome most of them. Mine is working okay. The range is limited. I've heard from readers who have fallen in love with theirs and others who hate it. My suspicion is that there's going to be generations of improvement. There is a knockoff. I forget the brand name. Again, we have it in our database. And then there's what the heck? Tapacu, which has been around for a long time.
Yes.
Really fine, high-tech remote read. And they now have a wireless model, which works pretty well. So I'm optimistic we'll see this technology improve. And the Traeger spent $46 million on this product. That's a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, actually, I have unofficial commentary from some other industry-leading thermometer producers that they're working on competition. So I suspect there'll be others. So, but it makes sense. Traeger has been a leader in the technology side. The interesting story that's developed out here is that Traeger and Weber both went public within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yes.
Traeger went public on July 29th, and Weber went public about a week later
August
on
5th.
August 5th,
Yep.
Which was only 5 days ago.
Yes.
Traeger opened at around $22, and today they closed at close to $32.
Yes.
So their stocks are going up. My guess is that enthusiasm for Traeger stock is related to the enthusiasm for Traeger grills. Traeger and Big Green Egg are two products that seem to have a cult following, that seem to have people who are madly in love with those products, and they are, like Apple people, which I am. I'm an Apple person, and there's a cult following, and my guess is they're the ones who are buying all that stock. Whereas Weber, which has been around for many, many, many years, much higher revenue, a much more solid company, sold in 78 countries, 36% roughly, maybe closer to 40% of all grills sold in this country are Weber's. Traeger has about a 2% market. Weber came out and they did not achieve the dollar value that they had hoped, and they did not achieve the number of shares that they had hoped.
No.
They still sold a heck of a lot of stock. I think it was somewhere around 250 million.
Yes.
And that's a lot of capital. I mean, you can pay down some debt, you can pay some bonuses, and you can use it to develop. Now, Weber is moved into the electronics world. They have always been a steel and plastic company. They've always been, stamping out steel, building really solid, well-made grills that don't necessarily have the latest bells and whistles, but you buy a Weber Summit and you might as well put it in your will because it'll outlive you. And they have this huge parts inventory. I had a 20-year-old Weber Genesis that needed some parts, and I called them up, and son of a gun, they had them in stock. I mean, it's a great company. Napoleon makes a gas grill that competes with them that I think has got a couple of legs up on some of their products. But
Napoleon has a bigger market share than Weber does.
Pardon?
Napoleon has a bigger market share than Weber does.
I don't think so.
100%.
Napoleon? No, they're a Canadian company. Weber is almost 40% of all grills sold in this country. How can Napoleon be bigger?
How can they be bigger?
I'd have to see the numbers. Pardon?
How can they be bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. That leaves nothing for.
Their percentage of market share is bigger than Weber.
I'd love to hear that. I'd love to see the basis for that. But regardless, I mean, Weber's a great company. They've done a lot of things well, but now they've gotten into the digital world, which is something that Traeger's done very well, and they've stubbed their toe when they introduced the Smoke Fire, which had a smart phone connectivity and bells and whistles. It wasn't fully functional when they introduced the product, and there are still bugs. I'll leave it to Max. Hopefully you'll have him on sometime soon. He's testing one of their new models that came out just around the time they came public, and he's having a dickens of a time getting it to work properly. So, all these companies going public, it's going to be interesting to see where they go. The financial and analysts rate Weber higher than Traeger, but you've got to admire what Traeger is up to. I mean, Weber comes on the market. Their New York Stock Exchange abbreviation is WEBR. Traeger comes on, and they are Cook, C-O-O-K. Brilliant, just brilliant. The day they go public, they're all crowded up on the dais there, and they ring the bell, and in the background, they have a huge sign. Cook with us, or I've never seen that at an IPO. So these guys are smart, and they are gunning for Weber, but they are primarily at this moment a pellet grill company. Now they've got a thermometer company. Weber makes charcoal, gas, and pellet grills, and they're getting into the digital world. They're in 78 countries. Traeger is in one country.
That's not true.
According to their perspective,
Traeger sells grills all over the world.
To my knowledge, according to their prospectus, let me rephrase it. They're primarily in the U.S.
Okay, I agree with that. Primarily, yep. Do you think that this shows the difference in CEOs, goes to show the difference in how you were even seeing the companies appear on their IPO days? You have Jeremy Andrus, who well-famed, bringing Skull Candy to market and prominence, and other than Beats by Dre, who was launching at the same time and would have killed anybody doing headsets. I think Skull Candy probably would have been number one in the market outside of Dr. Dre and his Beats by Dre. And now you have him in Traeger. He's well-versed at getting tech. He's tech-driven. I think he sits on the board of 10 other tech companies as well. And marketing-driven, of course. So you have, as you said, you look at that dais when they're ringing the opening bell. You got BBQ up there. You have that, what's his name, Kendrick Barbecue, and then a bunch of other people I don't know. But I found it interesting who he decided to have up there with him. I think that's really calculated. And then you didn't not see anything about Traeger's IPO for the next 4 or 5 days. I mean, they were just hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And they were showing videos of the party that they were having in Salt Lake at the headquarters with all their influencers and employees and all the people they find near and dear to them, and just going crazy in the best ways possible. Maybe a little overboard in some certain instances, but we won't talk about that here. And then fast forward 5 days later and you see Weber's launch, and it was like, who cares? I mean, it was such a difference. You have the CEO, is it Chris Scherzinger or whatever his name is, talking about how they want to automate the cooking process to a certain degree, or to a whole degree, where you're taking all the have to knows away, and it's going to tell you how to do everything to perfect your cooking. And
well, I'm sure Traeger is in that field too.
I'm sure Traeger wants to do that too, but I think the way that it's brought across is much different. There's a lot of cool marketing things. There's a lot more buzz around Traeger than there is around Weber, and Weber could probably stand to try and fish some of those Traeger folks away, or hire some people that have a little bit more of a marketing buzz to at least create some excitement. I mean, August 5th was like dead, other than Tuffy Stone posting like 2 pictures on the New York City streets in front of the stock exchange. It was kind of sad.
Well, that's all true, but let's cut to what the financial wizards look at. Weber's market cap is $5.5 billion. Traeger is $3.5 billion. Traeger had a net income of $31.6 million in 2020. Weber had $88 million. Right now Weber's still the big boy, the big dog. But you've got to admire Traeger's guts and savvy and chutzpah. I'm just looking at my notes here. You're correct. Traeger says their U.S. penetration is only 3%, and it is their primary market, not their only market. And they do plan to expand internationally. But Weber is active in 78 countries. Big difference. It'll be interesting to see. Meanwhile, in the background, we have another interesting development going on, and that's a company called BBQ Guys.
Yeah,
and they're out of they're down in the south. I forget where Alabama, Mississippi,
I think somewhere around there.
Yeah. And they own a grill line called Blaze. But this is a company. If you're not familiar with them, check them out. They're advertising on TV. I saw them the other day advertising during the Olympics.
Yep.
They were bought by their company that specializes. It's a grill store. It's an online grill store selling grills and accessories, and they're doing some great videos. And they were bought by a private equity firm called Brand Velocity Partners. And Brand Velocity Partners, among the partners is Eli and Peyton Manning.
Yep.
And the commercial I saw the other day had, I think it was Eli on the commercial. I didn't catch the whole commercial, but they're behind it, and I'm sure that they're going to use their reputation to promote it. They're going head-to-head with Amazon, which is not an easy task. Amazon has a heck of a lot of grill products for sale. They had $130 million in revenue in 2019, and Blaze had another $41 million. So they're almost $200 million in revenue, and they too plan to go public. What this is endemic of is during COVID year, when all the restaurants were closed, we stayed home and cooked. And your listeners and my readers are home cooks anyhow. But there are an awful lot of folks who are not much at home cooking. They, particularly city dwellers, they dine out a lot. And if they cook simply, or they cook pre-prepared foods, or they carry out. And they got into the sourdough bread thing, yeah. And grills were selling like hotcakes all through the spring and summer of 2020. And it slowed down because of supply chain issues. They couldn't buy steel, they couldn't buy plastic, but there was a huge demand for grills all through there. So when we come out of this, if we ever come out of this,
we better.
It's going to be interesting to see how many legs this barbecue enthusiasm has.
All right, here we go, Meathead. The top 10 competitors in the market of the barbecue and grilling market are as follows, according to finance.yahoo.com. Number one. Who's number one in the market? Company called Middleby Corporation, LLC, largest competitor with 19.62% of the market, followed by who? Meathead? Napoleon! Napoleon,
Weber claims,
16.8.
I don't know what we're measuring here, but Weber claims in their prospectus that they have something like 40+% of all grill sales in the United States. Now, I don't know what your data is, where it's coming from, whether it's worldwide, but I find it hard to believe. I know Napoleon, I love their products.
Yes.
But I know as I walk my neighborhood, and I go out for a walk every morning for an hour, I see one Napoleon grill in the neighborhood, and it's the one that I gave my neighbor. But everywhere I go, I see Weber kettles, Weber Genesis, Weber spirits. Weber is, we'll have to do some research. I don't know who this Yahoo source is, but I question it.
All right. John Solberg says this is a bad list, so we say fine. We'll trash it. But it was published, so you know what they say on the internet.
Thank you, John.
All right, Meathead, stand by. We'll be right back, and we'll finish this tech stuff up, and then we'll talk about some garden, food, and such. Pits and Spits has been handcrafting smokers and grills in Houston, Texas. In that time, Pits and Spits establishing itself as one of the premier brands in high-quality offset smokers, and of course, pellet cookers. Pits and Spits setting itself apart by using heavy 7 and 10 gauge stainless in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the Unit 304 stainless roll-top lids and front shelves on every single smoker. Does it matter? Yes. Using higher quality materials, Pits and Spit smokers reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. By providing a fully welded smoker, you don't have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel, that grill rattling apart as you move through the backyard. And 304 stainless steel means you're getting an heirloom quality piece of equipment you can pass down to the kids if you want. Now, where some companies focus on being a low-cost provider, Pits and Spits focuses on craftsmanship and using quality materials. Are there cheaper ways to do this? Sure. But they don't like tack welds or cheap stainless or electronics that you can't trust. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control of the design and standards. Not something you find with stuff brought in from overseas. Their steel suppliers supply materials to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so they will perform in any and all conditions. And their controllers are made right here in the States, so they are able to have unimpeded transparency into the programming. Pits and Spits is sold through a dealer network across the country. However, if there isn't one near you, give Coy a call at the shop, 844-650-6250. Whether you're a backyard grill master looking to cook steaks for the family or a competition team smoking 50 racks of ribs, Pits and Spits has a product for you. You can check them out at pitsandspits.com. That's all spelled out, pitsandspits.com. Or see their pits in the wild across the globe and with their handle at Pits and Spits, at Pits and Spits, again, all spelled out. And we'll be back with more Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Stick around.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit amazon.com to purchase as well. Chris Becker and the gang over there, busting it, trying to get pellets to you ASAP. Let me ask you a question about this whole grill business recently. Maybe it should have hit me in the face earlier, and I just didn't see it, but When I saw the acquisition of Traeger to Meter, and I thought, oh, well, here's Traeger seeing this thermometer really, as you said earlier, and talking about somebody, maybe it was Weber, having a bit of a stumble. Like, the concept is good, but the product just isn't there. And I thought Weber's going to buy it, or I'm sorry, Traeger's buying it, and they're going to be able to make it do what it should have done out of the box low these years ago. And then I talked to a few other people, and they said, there's a very good chance that Meter's just going to go away and die at some point. It's not going to be a product that they're really going to support as a Meter. And what really happened is they bought patents. They don't really give a shit at all about Meter, the product. So that Meter can fizzle away, and then at some point in time, because now they own all the IP and all the patents, they will reintroduce a Traeger wireless thermometer also. Traeger buys all of the Meter patents because now they can corner the market on wireless probe technology. I think Meter's in some kind of litigation with 5 other knockoff companies at this point in time, or somewhere thereabouts. Likewise, Traeger is trying to put Green Mountain Grills out of business because of the pads. If it all set up perfect for them, they could control the pellet cooker market. A, they could control the Wi-Fi portion of the pellet cooker market. B, and now they could corner the wireless thermometer technology as well. I mean, it could set up really well for them. I think it's highly unlikely, but it could set up really well. A long way to go to say what I've noticed recently is a lot of acquisitions aren't necessarily product-driven. People are buying patents in order to arm themselves with the most IP possible, given the state of technology and where we live today.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the meter became called the Traeger meter. Why not? It needs a sub-brand name. That wouldn't be surprising at all.
What about
and
the Meatiger?
Do
we like the Meatiger? I think that one has a better ring to it.
I went back to my notes here, and according to Weber's prospectus, now I have some experience having brought a wine-related company to public sale, that when you produce a prospectus for stock sale, you have to really vet everything you say in that prospectus, and the lawyers are going to really hold your feet to the fire, because you do not want the SEC coming down on you for making fraudulent statements. Weber's prospectus states that there is an installed base of grills in the United States of 70 million units, 56% of all households. 42% of all those 70 million grills are Weber. 42% of 70 million are Weber. That's almost half. I mean, that sounds about right to me. I absolutely cannot believe the data that Napoleon is outselling it in the United States, maybe Canada. And that's right up there with your friend Derek Rich's claim that there's some guy in New Zealand has a website bigger than mine. I mean, you cannot believe everything you read on the internet, for crying out loud.
All right. Now, gardening is something that you are into. You like to do a garden. My father-in-law is a huge gardener. I know secretly he hates the fact that he moved to a new house a year ago, and they don't have near the estate that they had in Willoughby, where they used to grow a number of different gardens in the background. So, talk to me about your growing garden. What?
Who moved a year ago?
My father-in-law. I mean, I moved a year ago too, but we were moving. We were actually moving all at the same time. They went further east out than we did.
I missed that. I thought you said I moved.
No, I moved, and my father-in-law moved, who was a big gardener, and I used to just reap the rewards of his hard work because, as most gardeners know, like things just come in all at one time, and then you go from having nothing to having a bounty, and all of a sudden it's way too much. So, what are things in the garden? Yeah, right. But what are things in the garden that you like to use in live fire recipes? What are some of your favorites?
Well, I got to give credit where credit is due. My wife is a master gardener. The state of Illinois, the University of Illinois, actually offers a degree certificate called the master gardener. You have to pass tests and so on. And she is a master gardener.
Wow.
And we have a fairly significant plot of land in our tiny suburban backyard. And we are reaping the benefits of it. Eggplant is coming in now. Tomatoes are coming in. Zucchini the size of baseball bats. All kinds of fun things you can do with them, though. Our mutual friend, Steve Reichland, wrote a book on grilling vegetables. It just came out this year. It's an excellent book. I have a number of recipes that I do that are a little different than some of his, but they're a lot of fun. I do eggplant parmesan on the grill. It's a lot of fun. We start with the tomato sauce. You start with the tomatoes. Usually I choose these egg-shaped tomatoes, which are Romas or, one of the Italian varieties. They're more meaty than they are juicy. And you split them in half and you grill them face down. You got to make sure the grill is really clean. You do not need meat grease on your tomatoes. And that's top and bottom. You don't want smoke from meat grease on your tomatoes.
Right.
But you can smoke these babies and you grill them until they're a little charred, flip them over, grill the backside until it's charred, and then you can pop the skins right off and you can chop them up, and now you have fire roasted tomatoes. And in the past couple of years, I don't know if you've noticed, the grocery stores are selling cans of fire roasted tomatoes, and they're more expensive than regular tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. Just grill them off. Once you grill them off, throw them in a blender or a food processor with a little salt and whatever the herbs you want, oregano, salt and pepper, and, give it an Italian flavor. Whir them up, and now you have a great tomato sauce. Okay, then you take the eggplants. Now, if you're going to make eggplant parmesan, typically you dip them in egg, and then you dip them in breadcrumbs, and then you fry them. And eggplants are like a sponge. They just soak up oil. But you can take an eggplant slice, about a ½ inch thick, and just paint it lightly with oil and throw it on the grill until it softens. Then you take your tomato sauce and ladle that on top of that slice. Then you can take a slice of a Parmesan cheese and or mozzarella cheese and lay that on top. Close the lid until the cheese melts. And now you have this lovely round disc with tomato sauce and cheese on top. And I have the recipe and the video. There's a video that shows me making these. They're really gorgeous. Some basil, a couple of chopped up pieces of basil and slices, or just leaves of basil. And eggplant parmesan on the grill is delightful. And it doesn't have anywhere near the oil of classic fried eggplant parmesan. And it's just a lot of fun. And you've got this grilled tomato sauce now. You can use it on pizzas. You can use it on pasta. You can use it. There's another recipe that I know I've mentioned here before, but I have to mention it. And I'll mention it every year till I die, because it may be one of the coolest things you can do on the grill or a smoker. It's actually best on a smoker, but you can do this on a grill if you know how to make your grill smoke. And that is, you get cherry tomatoes, 1 or 2 plants of cherry tomatoes, and you're just swimming in cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
You pick them when they're ripe, and you get a sharp knife and you stab them 3 or 4 times so that they're porous now, so that moisture can evaporate. And you throw them on your smoker. Use a grill topper or something so they don't fall through the slats, because they're going to shrink. And you throw them on the smoker at the lowest temperature possible. And it takes 4 hours maybe or more. And you shrink them down to raisins. And they become like raisins. They're like sun-dried tomatoes. They're really concentrated flavor. They're really sweet. They have the soft texture of a raisin. Don't let them get hard. Don't cook them too far. And then you can freeze them and have them all winter long. But these guys are fantastic. Any place you would use a raisin. But they're great on a pizza, on a salad, in a focaccia. Just a million things you can do with these smoked tomato raisins. And you just snack them, man. They're just fantastic. And if you don't have cherry tomatoes growing, go to the farmer's market and buy a big old bag of them. You will not regret doing this. Nothing could be simpler. If you need more hand holding, go to AmazingRibs.com and find the recipe there. But you just poke holes in them, throw them on the smoker until they're about like raisins, and just fantastic. Here's another one we do that the kids love. Pizzucchini, especially if pizza gets ahead of you. I mean, if the zucchini gets, and it does, you go out there and you got this gorgeous 6-inch zucchini, and you say, "Oh, that's fantastic! I'm going to pick it tomorrow, and we're going to make a zucchini side dish." And you go out the next day, and it's a baseball bat. I mean, overnight, it just grows the size of a baseball bat. And a lot of people think once they get that big, they're worthless, but they're not. You slice them lengthwise, and you scoop out the pith, which is kind of soft and mushy. Scoop it out so that there's nothing left but skin and meat. And then you grill those, slice them with a knife so that there's some, X-shaped slices. And then you're not going to slice them. You're just going to gouge them with a knife. And you grill them, the two halves, until they're a little limp. And then you bring them in and you fill them with whatever you would put on a pizza. Ground meat, sausage, mushroom, tomato sauce, your grilled tomato sauce.
Yes.
We did one the other night with chorizo, breadcrumbs, just loaded up like a canoe with passengers, as mounded up as high as you can. Top it with tomato sauce and cheese, back on the grill until the cheese melts, and you've got pizzucchini. And kids eat their vegetables. They love it.
Do you take the, is it called the rind or the skin off of it? Do you use a peeler to take that off to eat?
No,
you can eat that?
Zucchini skin is tender, and especially when you've cooked it, no need to take it off. It's just fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a step
And you can do it with both green zucchinis and yellow. And I prefer the yellows, actually, but for some reason my wife keeps planting the green ones.
I'm not too up on Ratatouille. I knew it was like a Disney movie at some point a number of years ago, and Ratatouille ended up being the featured item of the whole movie because of its simplicity. It looks to be a tremendous labor of amount to put it together, but like what's in it and why would I want to bother with it?
Let's just call it a mixed vegetable grill. You get the zucchini, you get the yellow zucchini, the red zucchini, the tomatoes, the eggplant, whatever's growing out there. You grill it all up, toss it together, and eat it. Melt some cheese on it if you want. Throw some fresh herbs in there, some basil. Top it off with a grilled tomato sauce. I mean, there are a bazillion recipes for ratatouille, but basically it's just a mixed vegetable grill. And if you do it right, it's a meal in itself, and it's wonderful.
Dessert-wise, I know everybody's waiting for you to say, "Oh, grilled pineapple," of course, but let's change it up. Let's change it up. You put on your outline grilled peaches, which is something that I used to do quite often when I originally got into, before I had the forum.
Yeah.
Well, no, I had the forum, but before any podcasts or anything, everybody loved grilled peaches. So how do you do that best? And because we want to try it this weekend.
Well, start with good peaches. With all due respect, I'm sure there are listeners out there from Georgia and South Carolina, but your peaches are not as good as cold climate peaches.
Yeah,
and this is true for most fruits. And winemakers all know this. All the great wines of the world come from cool climates, and that's because you have hot days which sweeten the fruit, and then cool nights which keep the acidity from burning off. So you get this perfect sugar-acid balance. We get peaches here from southern Michigan, particularly around the town of Red Haven, and they are just ungodly good. You eat them over the sink, and there's basically there are a bunch of sub-varieties, but basically there's cling peaches and freestone peaches. And if you can, you get freestone peaches. And that means if you slice the peach in half, it comes right off the stone or the pit. It doesn't cling to the pit. And those are easier to deal with. Usually for grilling, you want them a little less than perfectly ripe. When perfectly ripe, they're really soft. You squeeze them and they're like a baby's bottom. And you want them just a little firm. You slice them. And again, you've got to have really clean grill grates. And you start with the cut side down, flip them over, and get a little grill marks on them. They get caramelized. This is the process of converting the sugars, and they get a richness and a complexity that you can't get any other way. And once you've done that, you can slice them up in quarters or eighths. And there's a recipe my wife created that's on our website where it's a rum and butter and a little sugar, and it is just awesome with ice cream. So peaches and cream and this rum butter sauce, unbelievably good. And now's the time. These peaches are all coming in. Try for Washington State, Michigan, Minnesota. Probably Ohio's got good peaches.
Oh, yes, we do.
New York State. Cool climate peaches. Grill them off. Throw some ice cream and this rum butter sauce on there and go straight to heaven.
I don't know what we haven't covered tonight, Meathead. We've talked about technology. We've talked about stocks. We've talked about bonds. We've talked about what you should believe on the internet and what you shouldn't. And then we've closed it out by saying, get into your garden, and before it overtakes you, eat that stuff. And you've given us recipes. I mean, you have done it all tonight. Go to AmazingRibs.com if you're not going there regularly. Of course, join the Pitmasters Club if you haven't joined that for less than $25 a year. And we will see Meathead in September, if you can believe it.
And remember, it is the largest barbecue and grilling website in the world.
On the face of the earth. That's right. There's Meathead right there. Thank you, Meathead.
Thank you very much. Always good to hang with you and the Centralites.
Meathead from AmazingRibs.com right there. And again, covering it all. So if you've missed it, if you're just tuning in right now, I see Corey Gilbert joining in. Sorry, Corey. You're going to have to get it on podcast. It'll be up a little bit later this evening. Before we close out the first hour, I will talk to you quickly about Yukon Glory, one of the newest sponsors of the show. And they are ready to talk to you about the Grill and Serve set, an absolute revolution when it comes to the landscape of grilling baskets. I'm going to show you here in the second hour. I've always hated two things about using grilling baskets during my cooks. One, I have to wear some kind of heat-resistant glove to take those things on and off the cooker because they're hot. Secondly, it gets grease or oil over the damn table, for my counter, wherever I put it, when I set it down to serve. And being someone who is a clean freak, this isn't something that I can really get down with. So what's a live fire cook to do? Enter a great product from Yukon Glory called the Grill and Serve. This patented design fixes everything. The set includes 3 stainless steel grill baskets, which are moved by a clip-on handle that seamlessly grips the interior of the basket for easy lifting and dropping. The set also has a large custom-fitted stainless steel serving tray to catch any drips and allows for a beautiful custom presentation. Perhaps, in my case, more importantly, gives you a clean table when everyone is done eating. Thank you, Yukon Glory. What should you cook on them? Where can you get them? Glad you asked. Perfect for veggies, seafood, wings, tacos, and meats of all types. If you can think of it, you can use the Grill and Serve for it. As far as where to buy, Amazon.com, Walmart.com, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target. Of course, you can go to YukonGlory.com, and if you love to save money, and who doesn't, you can use the promo code 10CENTRAL, the numerals 10CENTRAL, all one word. When you use it, you get 10% off your entire order all August long. Go to YukonGlory.com. Any product, 10CENTRAL, 10% off. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion being brought to you by Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, and Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or via Bluetooth. Alexa or the Google Assistant compatible. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. We thank Meathead from AmazingRibs.com for joining us last hour. We are heading to the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Dino Dan from Cypress, California, and you're watching the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Now listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show. It's a live show during the week, Tuesdays from 9 to 11. We're recording at the same time, so if you can't get it live, you can get it in podcast, which is how most of you get it anyway. But it's 9 to 11 otherwise on Tuesday nights if you want to drop in or pass through or come through, as we say in the neighborhood. Still to come on the show this evening in about 13 minutes, Jackie Taylor, who is the star of Relative Unknown, a podcast / documentary series where you get podcasts on any platform. So she'll be joining us for the first time on this show. And the more I talk to Jackie, there's actually there's more than one Cleveland connection, actually. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at BBQ Central on Snapchat, /BBQ Central Show, Facebook, and Twitch for video feed, /RD Rempe on YouTube for an additional video feed. And don't forget, you can get an ad-free podcast feed if you so desire by becoming a patron over at my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/BBQ Central Show. If you are an Apple Podcast user, you can get the ad-free show by subscribing directly in the feed /show itself. So whatever you want to do, I am happy to give you the options. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday is episode 189, taking you back to the best day ever, July 10th, 2010. I should say the best day of the year every year, July 10th of whatever year we're in. Hot Grill on Grill Action is going to be featured this week. They were guests on my show back then. This was actually done in the After Dark segment. So if you go way back with the show, you would know originally the show was 1 hour. You would know originally the show was only a podcast, and we graduated into a live show via LA Talk Radio. It was technically 55 minutes, I believe. And then I found more and better technology than I was using and realized I could get my own audience without LA Talk Radio, though we continued to use them. And I said, hey, I'm running out of time in this. What if I started to take a look at a second hour? What would that look like? So we started the After Dark segment, which had no real time frame set. I would get a guest or two and we'd talk about it. It was supposed to be a little bit more edgy and avant-garde at the time. But when you hear the reference to, and then eventually we just blew it out to the second hour when I realized it was going to be something that we could do, and away we went ever since. However, you will hear After Dark reference, so that what that means, Logan Hendrickson and Ryan Amos showed up. We talked about their background, how they got into competitive cooking. They were also getting ready to be on the season 2 of Barbecue Pitmasters back then, like within the Thursday coming up or whatever it was. So they were getting ready to be stars, TV stars. I also gave a quick take before we started with Ryan and Logan about barbecue teams at that stage of the game just wanting to be on television. putting in their videos, their video applications. John Marcus said, if you want to be on the show, you got to submit a video, this and that. And these they didn't care about cooking. They just wanted to be on TV. So I talked a little bit about that. Fun interview. By the way, Hot Grill on Grill Action has been tied to this show in any number of ways over the last 11 years. Flabongos, original barbecue songs, original barbecue Christmas songs, the 12 days of barbecue Christmas, of course, which you hear every year. Great team, great group of guys. The best barbecue team name ever, Hot Grill on Grill Action. Ryan, Logan, Matt, and Chris, shout out. What up, boys? Hope everybody's well. And of course, the Matt that I'm referring to is Matt Frampton, who's been on the show a number of times, the guy behind Urban Slicer Pizza. In the Cosa Nostra, there is a boss of bosses term, the capo de capo, capi de capo, and I call Matt the Pizziola de Pizziolas, the Pizziola of Pizziolas. Of course, you could have figured that out all by yourself. Don't forget, if you want to hear a segment or a guest that you've heard on the show before in a best of format, email John, and he'll take care of you. John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com. And now we're going to showcase some products from Yukon Glory. Number one. This is actually growing to be one of my favorite things. Grab it right here. This is the steak board. Now, punch back out. So as you can, oh dear. So as you can see, you know what? I got to use a different screen here so I can actually see what the hell I'm doing. All right. So as you can see here, this is a wood board. I got a knife right here. There's actually two stainless sauce ramekins. And you would put the steak, obviously, in the middle of this wood board here. And then you have a nice juice collection tray. And these are the steak boards. And again, the knife comes with it, very sharp. And then you do have these two stainless ramekins that you can fill up with sauce or whatever the hell you eat with your steaks. So this is very nice. Yep. Like this one a lot. Then somebody like French fries. Yeah, we got the French fry basket right here. So you have the stainless French fry basket. It looks like this. It looks a little discolored because, of course, I used it and I probably didn't clean it that well with my first set of French fries. Maybe I actually did tater tots in it. And you can slam this right down on the grill. Now, if you don't want to be, messy guy or gal and you just want to use this, I mean, this would make a great serving presentation just on the table like that. This one has two ceramic ramekins this time for sauce. I would recommend, of course, ketchup if you're going to be doing any kind of potato product, because when it comes to ketchup, my palate is 7 years old, along with my hot dogs and my hamburgers. But this is really nice. It's not a huge amount of volume here, so I would suggest maybe a couple if you're somebody that entertains large parties. However, not to be outdone is the thing that I just talked about, the grill and serve basket. Here we go. Look at this thing. Full stainless. There's 3 trays right here. And now, when we were talking about you don't want to burn yourself, right, when you're pulling these things off. Because, if you set this thing, I mean, it's, pretty good size right here. You can get a number of different potatoes, a good couple fillets of fish, whatever it is that you're doing that you don't want to put on the grill. You can use these grill baskets. Now, if you grill this, pick this up with your hand, you're like, oh, yeah, it's hot. So you go and you take your gripper that it comes with, you put it in the middle thing here, and up it comes, and now you're not burning. And you can set it right back down in this tray, lever it off. And, of course, forgive the sound here, there is this tray that they talk about, which is what's collecting all of the grease and all that other stuff. So it is a nice presentation piece, as it were. And again, you have the handy dandy grabber that you can, where is it closest to you? You fit on the inside, of course. And then, You have a nice secure connection there. You can also grab it on this side if you want to, but I'm not doing it right. Yeah, that way. Sorry. So you have two sides. You can grab it from either side. This side or this side or this side, whatever's closest to you. And again, only limited by your imagination, right? So, triple. I gotta get a better camera person here. Triple trays, which is nice. The tray, which is nice for collection. And you're off and running. Again, you get 10% off right now if you use 10 Central at checkout. When you go to yukonglory.com, I believe at least a couple of you were over as I had made some posts on it a couple weeks ago. And it's really, again, the thing that surprised me the most, and I don't want to say I'm a bit jaded when it comes to folks saying their products are great and they make good product and they make their own products, things like this. But having felt it and knowing it and seeing it and talking with the folks, I mean, they're walking the walk. And they are talking the talk, but they're walking the walk, which is most important. All right. Jackie Taylor is getting ready to come on. Not in the green room yet, but hopefully she'll be here shortly. While we wait for her, I'll talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grill, some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. Choice line, a prime line to choose from. If you want to save a couple bucks, you can go Choice line, kind of the original Green Mountain Grill versions. Doesn't have a lot of that tech, a lot of that gear that a lot of people are clamoring for, but if you're somebody that likes to save a couple bucks, if you want a good performing pellet cooker, the Choice line is right for you. Now, if you want to amp the game up a little bit, you go Prime line. You get 2 internal meat probes. You get peek-in windows in the main cooking chamber, and on the pellet hopper, you have Wi-Fi connectivity. You have app control as well through your Wi-Fi connection. The Peak and the Ledge are your two sizes for the backyard. The Peak is the biggest one, Ledge middle, and the Trek is the one that you can take with you. That used to be the Davy Crockett. That's the one that started the 12-volt technology as well, which you find on all the cookers at this point. The Peak and the Ledge will also accommodate the pizza oven insert. They're sold through a dealer network, so go to greenmountaingrills.com and find a dealer nearest you. Visit the dealer, get educated, and then figure out which one is best for you. Then buy it. And then know when you get home, because you're buying through a dealer, you're getting educated properly. So success pretty much guaranteed right out of the box. No remorse, not returning the cooker, none of that stuff. Dealer network. This is why we love it. Go to greenmountaingrills.com for more accessories as well to complete the Green Mountain Grill experience. That's greenmountaingrills.com. And we are breaking format and going with Jackie Taylor when we come back here. Folks, you're going to be so excited. You're going to be really excited. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 2 sizes with a host of accessories. Whether you're a beginner or professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Gang, I'm a fan of podcasts, not only the Barbecue and Grilling podcast, but other ones as well. Tonight in the second hour, we break format and talk about something that I knew nothing about other than when I would hear about it on TV shows or movies, that being the Witness Protection Program, or WITSEC as it's called. My guest tonight has been in the WITSEC program for the past 40 years or so and was the story behind the documentary/podcast entitled Relative Unknown, which dealt with her father, a former Hell's Angel turned government informant, and what her life was like being put into the WITSEC program. Here to talk about that, what she would like to change about the program for the folks who will have to be part of it in the future, and maybe, just maybe, some barbecue talk as well. We welcome in first-timer to the show, Jackie Taylor. Hey, Jackie.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I am fabulous, Jackie. I appreciate you joining me, and I am I don't remember the last time I was this excited to have a guest on the show, barbecue or not barbecue related, so I appreciate you making time. And
thank you.
Before we get into the agenda this evening, this show is one that obviously covers barbecue and grilling, so to stay on brand for at least one question, where is your level of interest in live fire cooking or eating or any of that?
It's way up there. I'm quite a big barbecue fan, actually. I used to coincide my trips to Cleveland with the rib burn-off down in the flats because it was right around my grandfather's birthday, which is May 24th. So that was a big thing to us. So, I mean, this is perfect. I love grilling out myself. I haven't done that much experimenting with anything more than propane. I know that's terrible, but
Why? I have a propane grill and I love it.
I do too. I grill out a lot. That's in fact, I was supposed to have a little barbecue tonight, but I canceled the barbecue to be on a barbecue show.
That's the way to do it, Jackie. That's right.
Is that good or bad? I'm not sure.
That's good. I mean, it's probably both, right? I mean, we always want to cook, but in my case, selfishly, I think it's okay. We'll let it pass. They can come tomorrow if they want, for crying out loud. So,
yes, that's what I said. Yes.
As we get going, I want to articulate a few of my goals here. First, of course, I want everyone to go out to get the Relative Unknown podcast if they haven't heard it yet and start listening to it. And I don't think we'll spoil too much for folks that haven't heard it yet. It's an incredible story on many fronts. And then second, and perhaps more important, I want to help you shine a light on the WITSEC program and show people the incredible shortcomings of how this whole thing works, because I don't think, as I mentioned in the open, 99% of us have any idea of how this thing actually works, living and breathing with folks doing it. We hear about it on TV, but we don't see even what the next day look like, or weeks or months or years as that program goes on. And there's obvious that there's some major things that need to be addressed. And really, that's your core mission of things that you're trying to change here for that program. So I hope to help in any way that I can. Are there any specific goals that you would like to accomplish during the time this evening too?
Yes, I just like to make people more aware because, like you said, Hollywood does really glamorize the witness protection program, and there's nothing glamorous about it. I do have an end game, and my end game is to, hopefully speak in front of Congress someday. There's been no congressional oversight since 1984 with my father. So that's a big concern of mine. All of the numbers, everything is not accessible to FOIA. So, that's a big thing to me. But basically just spreading awareness, letting people know my story, other stories that I've been working with as well. There's a number of other children that I'm connected with, and we have our own little support group, I guess you say. And I'm not alone in this. There's others out there that are in my shoes.
So just to set the scene a little bit here for the folks that are, just kind of coming in or wondering how this interview even happens. A quarterly guest of mine who's the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly, we were having a conversation one day, and he said, hey, we were talking about podcasts we listened to, and he asked if I had listened to Relative Unknown, and I said, no. He said, well, you should. There's a Cleveland connection in it. But he didn't really give me any heads up on what the show was going to be about, but I heard Cleveland, figured I'd give it a shot. And, of course, I listened to half of the first episode, and I'm hooked immediately, and I binged it for the next day or two. Every time I was in the car, I had it on, and I was through it, and it was an incredible, in a lot of the saddest ways possible, I think, story that you're going through. So I guess if I can ask a general question up front, I'm like the antithesis of motorcycle guy. I'm scared of motorcycles. I would like to ride one. I'm also afraid of everybody else that would hit and kill me. So, I just was not aware of the sheer amount of motorcycle clubs that were out in the 1970s and 60s and stuff. I had no idea. Are there this many motorcycle clubs that are still in existence today?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Is it more?
They're not. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Since Sons of Anarchy came out, I call it the Sons of Anarchy culture. You see a lot of guys now in Dyna Lows. That's a type of a bike, just to let you know, and street glides. Everybody wanted to go out and get a bike. Everybody wanted to start their own MC, their own club after this particular show came out, because it really glorified the biker culture, which, I have no bad memories about growing up in the Hells Angel Clubhouse. You'd think that surprisingly enough, you'd think that would be terrifying as a child, but it really wasn't. We had a lot of fun. It was very family based in the 70s. I remember a lot of barbecues. I remember just having a lot of fun with all of my uncles and my cousins. It was a great time. Since the early 80s, when the clubs systematically started getting shut down a little bit, thanks to my father and one, you saw a decline in club activity, on the radar club activity. Now it's more under the radar. Now it's more clubs trying to do good things, because they know that there's a lot more attention on them now, if that makes sense, after, the early 80s. So are there a lot of groups out there, a lot of clubs? Oh, yes. And a lot more than there were previously.
Do you have a general
Definitely.
opinion on motorcycle clubs today versus how they were? Or maybe not even comparing, just where the state of motorcycle clubs are today?
I do. There's certain ones that are, it's hard for me to see, I guess, where they are today versus where they were once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the realest of the real, and that's how I grew up. And now I see these guys with white tennis shoes and flat bills and their Dyna Lows, and like I said, I coined them the Sons of Anarchy culture. So it's more of a fad now, but you can still see those real bikers. As far as my involvement, I don't really want to be involved with that. My opinions changed over the past 6 months, I guess you would say, on where my stance is. I've you'd look at me and think I had a nickname actually when I was working in Cleveland at the Alley Cat Oyster Bar. They called me Biker Mom. But I'm far from it, actually. Do I like motorcycles? Absolutely. Do I want to be involved in any type of a club? Hell no. There's way too many politics. And, I'm a woman. I don't need any more drama in my life. And these clubs, a lot of them are full of drama. And I have no time for that.
Jackie Taylor
There's
joining me
my
here
opinion.
on the show. You can follow her on Twitter at Hell's Little Angel, and Angel is ANGL, so make sure you get that right if you want to follow along. So, again, to kind of reset a little bit, a lot of the Relative Unknown podcast is centered around, and you've kind of referenced him a couple different times here as we've been talking, your dad, Butch Crouch, who later on through the Witness Protection Program, and as he is kind of originally introduced in the show, is Paul Dome. And he was really quite a high-ranking member of the Hells Angels, and that's where this whole Cleveland connection comes in. So he's a guy who was born in Louisiana, and you go back and look at the train of despair here. I mean, your dad was born into some really crappy conditions with his mom, and no dad around, and his upbringing, and then obviously it kind of fell forward with you and what you had to deal with. But he ends up getting into prison pretty early in life, and then that's also where this whole motorcycle fascination comes with, because him and his cellmate at 6 a.m. in the morning and 5 p.m. at night are racing to the prison window to hear this dude ride to and from back to work, and just the melodic tones of the engine, really that was the romance where they fell in love with motorcycles, right?
Correct. That was the first page of his manuscript. Is if you asked me how I became a biker, this is how. And it was in Huntsville. Him and his cellmate were getting up and listening to this. It became the highlight of their day. This gentleman just riding to work, and they looked forward to that, and just listening to him, riding down the road and switching gears. And I mean, they loved it. And the first thing that he did when he got out of prison was he went and bought himself a bike, and he learned how to ride. And then he bought his cellmate a bike, and he taught his cellmate how to ride when he got out. So that's where it all started. And he went on to hook up with some of the original members of the Banditos, actually, and form a club down in Texas. So that's kind of all where it started. But he had a very tragic upbringing that I never knew a lot about until we did this podcast, and some of the producers really dug into his past and brought it all to light for me. So that was a wonderful thing that happened because of all of this, is how much I learned about my father that I had never known previously.
So he does time with the Banditos. He ends up turning in his patches, goes out west, and I don't know if he had like appointments, or he eventually runs into Sonny Barger, who of course is one of the most well-known, probably the most well-known Hells Angel, and he's keeping notes on everybody that's in biking at this point, and he knows your dad and what he's done, and says, hey, we want you to go out to Cleveland. There's been some things that have gone awry out there, and we want you to kind of get Cleveland back to prominence. And it appeared your dad was down for that, and away he went, and off to Cleveland he goes to kind of realign the Hells Angels charter out there.
Correct. So he went out. He did have an appointment with Sonny Barger. He thought he was going to get killed that day. Long story short, I don't want to give away too much. Sonny did ask him to go to Cleveland and help out the Cleveland charter, and to start some new charters on the Northeast coast there. So he helped with quite a few different clubs out there, get them started. He was wrangling up prospects, different things like that. Basically like a recruiter, I guess you could say. But everybody knew who he was, and he was wild and crazy. He definitely made a name for himself in the late 60s and early 70s. So yeah, he ended up being the vice president of the Cleveland charter. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started, I guess.
One of the culminating moments there in the beginning is the recounting of the Polish Women's Hall situation between Hells Angels and the Breed, and there's a lot of death going on. Details out how your dad stuck a guy in the guts and, basically gutted him on the floor. However, he's getting stabbed multiple times himself. And I mean, it's just, you're almost exhausted as you get done listening to that particular episode, because it almost seems unreal or movie-esque. And this is a recounting of what's happening in real life. And it's, mind-boggling as I was listening to the whole thing again a second time. And there seemed to be a point in the club's growth where, and from what I was trying to understand the second time, there was this rolling of bones, or making bones, where if you were going to be a full-fledged member of the Hells Angels in Cleveland, you were going to have to kill somebody. Was that a standing rule across the country, or is that just a rule in Cleveland to, set themselves apart as being the true badasses?
Allegedly, yes, that was a standing rule. And
always allegedly, reportedly.
That was a standing rule in Cleveland. Do I know if all of the club members completed this?
Nope.
We'll never know.
Yep.
But yes, he's written about it. I know that that's definitely not a rule now. A lot of things have changed within the club, thank God. But yeah, that was once upon a time, that was a rule. So that was kind of, I think, one of the things that made the HA stand out from a lot of the rest of the clubs back then was they were the baddest. You had to roll your bones to get in. So, yeah, that was in that particular episode that you're talking about the Polish Women's Hall, that I had to warn people about that one. I have, a lot of my friends' parents were going to listen to the podcast. And I said, there's one, it's pretty darn gruesome. It made my stomach turn listening to it. So
Yep.
it was very graphic. And I can't believe that. But then I remembered my father actually coming home after being gone for a long time. And he was bandaged up everywhere and had stitches still and scars. And he was showing me them as a child. And he told me that he went face to face with the devil. And this is what happened.
Oh, my God.
Crazy, but how he wrote was amazing. A lot of the stuff that we got from the podcast were his exact words from his manuscript. And his choice of words, his writing style was like nothing I've ever seen. And I can't wait to publish this manuscript because it's going to be amazing. I haven't read it. It's a little too hard. I've only read about 20 pages.
Of 500?
Yeah, it was like 650. So
Yeah.
it's on
Oh,
the
wow.
smallest font possible, with the smallest font possible from an old prison typewriter. So when all is said and done, it'll probably be about 1,000-page book.
Wow.
We're thinking. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in the podcast that your time in Cleveland growing up was the happiest time in your life.
Absolutely.
As you listen to this whole thing transpire, and then as I'm trying to remember things that are sticking out to me, that was like one that I could recall immediately. I'm hearing this whole thing develop. I was like, holy moly, I can't believe this is real life. And then I hear Jackie going, Cleveland was the best time of my life. I had my family around me. You have a younger brother, younger sister. You had your mom, and then you had all these
My
uncles,
grandparents.
your grandparents, right? And you had all these uncles who were, Hell Angels members. I mean, you were really young, so it's probably a stupid question for me to ask, but like, what do you glean from that time that you say, yeah, these were good? Was it just being around people, or were there other examples that you would point to say, this is why the time in Cleveland was good?
Mainly it was my grandparents. There was a lot of love with my grandparents. They were very good people. My grandfather worked for the rail yard, retired from the rail yard, and then went to work at the shipyard in Cleveland. And he was a superintendent building ships, and he didn't have to go to war because of it, because they needed him here. He ended up retiring and buying or joining a club out by Painesville and Concord area.
Yeah.
And there's a couple lakes there, and it's a fishing club, and bought a little house. And then he moved us out of inner city Cleveland and put us on that property. And we had a pier in the front yard and 2 little lakes, a bass rearing pond. He built us a picnic ground area with a swing set. I mean, it was wonderful. While my mom went to work or was with my father or at the clubhouse, that's mainly the wonderful things that I remember was the time with my grandparents, my Uncle Gene, my cousin Stacy, Frankie, and Heather. Just growing up in that area was just beautiful. But, the HAs would also come out when my mom was at work she worked nights at the hospital, and then my dad would have a little party out there. So, I mean, as far as my wonderful life out there, that's more what it was around. But club life, I still have wonderful memories from them. Just going to the clubhouse, I was never afraid. There was one member in particular that I was a little nervous around, and I don't know why. I think he had face tats or something, but something scared me about him. And his name was actually Jack. And I was afraid of Uncle Jack, and he never knew why. And he asked me one time, and I didn't know, but I was like 5, But other than that, I didn't see any violence. I saw drugs, I saw guns and knives, but nothing was ever bad. It's just, I didn't know any better as a
Right,
kid.
right.
This was just my reality.
And again, so young, you weren't 16, 17, 18 years old. I mean, you were well under 10 at that point. So just an innocent
Right.
little kid. And as you said, just kind of around the surroundings that you're at. I don't want to blow over the whole story here, but just to kind of keep it going, your dad ends up, turning state witness, whatever they call it, makes a deal. And this is where the whole other side of this story, I mean, you do a great job at setting up where the story turns and how it goes to get there. And listeners should go download the podcast, Relative Unknown, and get to this point. And I think this is where everything changes because, as I had mentioned in the open, as you had talked about when we've talked off air, Hollywood and most people see witness protection as something that's glamorized. And it's like, oh, we're saving you. And now we're sending you away and life will be so much better. You'll be protected forever, blah, 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 blah. But we don't know if that's the case. We don't know what the next day looks like or, the weeks and the years that will follow. So as you're going through that, transition, and it seemed, really disjointed and jarring and traumatic for you guys. It's middle of the, again, it seems like it's a movie. It's middle of the night stuff. It's grab your stuff. We're going on an adventure, all the stuff that you hear in the movies and the TV shows, but you're doing this in real life. So, can you talk a little bit about what the transition was like and ultimately where you end up?
Well, without giving away too much of the podcast, because you do have to listen to the podcast. It's phenomenal. And that's thanks to Zach Levitt right there. I just did what he told me to do.
It was so good. So good.
Thank you. Thank you. But I can barely take any credit. That was all Zach. My father flipped on the club and nobody's quite sure why. He claims it was because there was a bombing called the Zigley bombing in 1975 where a baby was killed with 2 other people. And he said that always bothered him, but that was 1975. He didn't flip till 1981. Mm-hmm. So why did he flip? We'll never really know. I have my theories. Everybody has their theories. Did he flip on the club? Did he snitch? Is he a rat? Yes, I get a lot of flack. Why are you talking about this? Trying to glorify your father. Not trying to glorify my father in any way, just trying to bring awareness to what happened to my family. As a direct result of being put on the witness protection program. In 1981, my mother noticed that on our private property, we were being watched. There was a sedan parked outside of our house with suits in the sedan, which it was a gated community. It wasn't even a community. It was just gated private property with about 10 different little cottages. It scared my mom enough to know that something was terribly amiss. And she packed us all up, moved us down to Florida. We lived happily in Florida without my father. So this was an escape from whatever my dad had done, whatever we were being watched for, as well as it was an escape for my mother from a very abusive man. There's a couple of instances that I remember where he was a couple of instances with violence with my father. Not too much, but I didn't see what went on behind their bedroom door.
Right.
Thankfully, but she escaped and we went down to Florida. She got a job there. We were living happily. And then my father decided to roll on the club and call the ATF. The ATF got a hold of my mother and said, basically, Butch has flipped. His demands are that he's not doing anything without his family. So here's what's going to happen. If you don't come with us and, we proceed with this, your whole family is in danger. You and your children will be killed. So you really have no choice. She was receiving threatening phone calls at work from the club, but it wasn't the club. We found that out later. I mean, it's a no-brainer there who that was, and that's just an unfortunate event, something that we'll never be able to really prove, but it happened. So we ended up, my mother never told us children. I was 7, my sister was 5. and my little brother was 2.
Oh.
So of course she can't tell the children what's going on, but she decided to go ahead and, go with the U.S. Marshals. So there was a lot of different agencies involved: the U.S. Marshals, the Department of Justice, the FBI, as well as the ATF. And I actually have intel documents, confidential documents from all 4 departments,
Wow.
or from all 4 agencies. It's pretty crazy on notes and things that were going on back then. So very lucky to have those documents. I remember one more. So I'm sorry, let's back up a little bit. So my mother decided to go ahead and do this. She was afraid for her life, afraid that we were all going to be killed by the Hells Angels.
Sure.
So she decided to start to go along with this, and she started packing slowly, doing laundry and packing things here and there and hiding them from us. She never told us what was going to happen. So the one part that I always say that is like the movies is we were woken up in the middle of the night as children and ushered into black vans. And that was terribly scary, terribly traumatic.
Yeah.
I remember almost everything about it. I'll never forget that. We had no idea what was going on. The only thing that was assuring to us and reassuring was my mother's gentle voice telling us that it was going to be okay. These guys are good guys. They're here to help us, but help us from what? What were we doing? So then we were put in a safe house in Tampa, Florida. There's about 7 safe houses that I know of in the United States. And since I've blown that cover so many different times, I don't think that the one in Tampa exists anymore. And that's by no fault of my own. But the marshals should answer my phone calls when I call them, I guess. But we did stay in that safe house while my mother and father were getting all of their paperwork situated. It was a giant house that had different wings on it. There was another couple that was staying there. There was also another man that was staying there. We all ate meals together. We had our own separate little area, almost like our own little apartment. We spent Thanksgiving there. We ate with the Marshalls. I actually have pictures. I probably have the only pictures of the inside of a federal safe house in existence.
Wow.
I've never seen or heard of anybody else that has any, but I do have some. So I have pictures of us eating Thanksgiving. I have pictures of us celebrating Christmas. We spent New Year's there, and shortly after, and it was right around the time that the plane crashed into the Potomac through the ice. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep.
That's the same time that we were moved to Billings, because I remember watching it on TV in our hotel room. So imagine this, being moved traumatically, in the middle of the night, staying in the safe house. We were told that we couldn't, we had to start lying to people. So as a child, I've been told my whole life, you don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't steal. And now all of a sudden I'm being told, this is your new name. This is how you write it. You need to fill this book up. If you get this wrong, you could put your whole family at risk, and you could get your family killed. I'm 7.
Wow.
And I'm
No
being
pressure.
told this. No pressure for the 7-year-old, So, we were told that. We were told motorcycles were not our friends. So I grew up loving motorcycles. I heard a motorcycle. I looked to see if it was my dad or one of my uncles. It was a comforting sound, as I said on the podcast. And then all of a sudden I'm told that everybody on a motorcycle is danger. And if you hear a motorcycle, you go into the house. If you're at school, you get off the playground. So, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
So we're moved to Billings, Montana, in the biggest shithole of a hotel. And I am no princess. I'm a Best Western girl right here. Days Inn, no problem. Red Roof Inn. I am not a princess. I'm, as long as there's not bed bugs, I'm good. But this place was disgusting. And that stood out because it was almost scary to sleep there. And then I drive by this place all the time now, and it's making me shake. I'm still mad about it. It infuriates me where they put me and my family. No car, no job. We were given a stipend of, I believe, $1,200 to $1,400 a month, which paid for our food, any bills. I believe that covered the cost of the hotel room as well. That's not a lot of money for 5 people.
No doubt.
So we walked everywhere. So the shock of being moved from Florida to cold ass Montana, and being put in a hotel and having to walk everywhere, having to walk to the grocery store, having to walk to, there's no cell phones back then. This is 1980. Well, now it's 1982. But having to walk to the grocery store, we didn't even have money for a cab because we had to really be careful of how we spent our money for food. So we're walking to the grocery store, which is a good half mile away, if not more. In the middle of winter, we have no winter clothes. We have to go get some winter clothes with the small amount of money that we're given. My mother walks everywhere until she finds a car. Then we are able to secure an apartment, and we move into this it was actually a cute little condo, thank God. But we spent a good 2 to 3 months in that hotel. And that, I'll never understand that. There was a Sheridan down the street, which wasn't, I mean, I found out later actually, I just found out last month, one of the witness protection kids that I am in contact with, he was actually moved to Billings, his whole family, and they stayed at the Sheridan.
Oh, wow.
They stayed at the Sheridan, and
Yeah.
we stayed at the Esquire Motor Inn is what it was called.
Yikes. Like in this time, is there expectation set as this transition is happening that, hey, don't worry, you'll have point of contact, you'll have handlers or anything like that? Or are they saying, hey, we're going to drop you somewhere and good luck?
That's how I'd like to say it. But I'm sure that my parents had contact with the handlers. I, of course, didn't because I was 7 years old at the time. I turned 8 like a month after we came here. So I didn't see a lot of the handlers. I know that my father worked with them. He was also flying back and forth to Cleveland to testify. So did I see a lot of FBI agents? Did I see a lot of marshals? No, not really. I think that they were trying to make it as normal as possible, but we never received any counseling. Excuse me, after this. That's one thing that I definitely do remember. The first time I ever saw a counselor was in school and trying to talk about some of this, but not knowing what I could and couldn't talk about was a strange thing. But apparently he was notified of the circumstances, so he did know, and he was pulling us out of class. But as far as professional counseling outside of my school, there was none, which I'm a huge advocate for mental health. So, we weren't checked on like that, like you would think that we would be. And as soon as my mom got a job, everything was cut financially. So we were completely on our own.
As soon as there was income coming in from an outside source, government cut you off.
Correct.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The other thing that I found incredible is, as you get older, as you need to sign up for things or show who you are and prove who you are, you have no identity. You're not Jackie Crouch anymore. You're Jackie Taylor, but there's no supporting documents that go along with that, and perhaps there still aren't supporting documents that go along with that. So, as you're making your way through, your 20s and 30s, like how are you dealing with that, and how is that fight going?
It's slowly but surely. I am still dealing with it today. I just dealt with it last month. I posted a video. I don't know if you saw that on my Instagram page, trying to get my daughter just a copy of her birth certificate. We couldn't find where her birth certificate was. I think it was with her dad or something, but we needed to get a copy of her birth certificate so that she could get a job. And they noticed up there that my expired passport, my passport that I finally got out of the marshals 5 years after we were supposed to get it. So I get my picture taken and everything, get flown down to Denver. And I didn't get my passport for 5 years after that.
Wow,
so a passport that's good for 10 years was only good for 5 years. Anyways, it expired during COVID. So the office was closed. So now my passport's expired. So I take it anyway, my driver's license, my passport, and I actually sent out for my old birth certificate that they said was non-existent. Well, it was. I got it. I took all that up there just in case. All of my middle names are spelled different on each supporting document. So a lady caught it up there. I'm like, oh God, here we go again. So now my daughter's having problems. So that's I call it third generation Whitsec problems.
Yeah.
Did my daughter ask for this? God, no. Did I ask for this? Did I sign anything?
Nope.
No. So that's my big problem. When we were initially put on the Whit program, Greg, we got social security card and a passport, and then it was up to us, of course, to get our driver's license. So we did all of that. And we were never given birth certificates, which poses a huge problem nowadays.
Yes.
Especially with 9/11 and the Real ID law coming into effect, which terrifies me and terrifies every other person on WITSEC, because many of these people do not have their birth certificates. Thankfully, now you can go in and apply for changes to your birth certificate. So this is the only way out that I know of. Because obviously I've pissed off the marshals now. I'm a breached member of security when I came out, so they refused to help me anymore. Once again, I didn't sign anything, so how am I breaching anything?
Right.
So that's for a wonderful team of lawyers that I have to figure out in the future. But all through my life trying to get a marriage license. This was way before I got my original birth certificate, but I didn't have a birth certificate. So the gal in Yellowstone County refused to give me a marriage license. She told me to go to the other county, that they were more lenient there. Playing softball, I'm trying to get into college.
Anything.
Everything. And now, and that was back in the day. Think of how it is nowadays. Everything is a lot tighter now. So now I'm, when I least expect it, it comes back and hits me in the face. What was I doing? Oh, I was buying a shotgun the day before yesterday. And I spelt my middle name wrong because I couldn't remember how my middle name was spelled on my driver's license. So I spelt my middle name wrong. And the guy asked me about it. And I was so embarrassed. What am I supposed to say? Oh, oops, I forgot the E. So,
like, what do you tell them? You say, oh, by the way, this is what's going on, and forgive me.
Well, then I'm going to be marked as a crazy, and I'm not going to get my shotgun.
Oh my God.
A lot of people know me now in Billings, so I probably could have found somebody in that sporting goods store that could have verified. My nephew actually works at a sporting goods store, and I made the mistake of not going to see him because he would
have caught it.
I know. I should have just went there, but I was in a hurry. So I was in a hurry to buy a shotgun. You know how that goes.
Yeah, always.
But anyways, it's just problems like that I'm still dealing with. But I am not the only person.
Right.
So over the years, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and a lot of people that are in my shoes. And we've kind of, I guess, organized our own little support group, so to speak. I'm trying to direct them as best as I can on what to do, but eventually it's just going to come to all of us testifying before Congress and saying, hey, this is what we're going through, what we're still going through. We're all batshit crazy because we never received mental health care. That's a whole different aspect in itself. It sucks. It's life. It's apparently my destiny. Did I ask for this? No, but I have to do it because I'm the only one. I do have an end game. I would like to eventually get all of this done and get on with my fucking life. Excuse me.
So how do you go from that goal in the meantime? Like, how are you spooling up to get there? Who are you talking to? What are the steps you need to take? I want to support that in any way possible, but I have no idea. I'm just speaking like if it were me. I just have no idea what the pathways are to get to that final destination.
Basically, it's just spreading awareness, listening to the podcast, spreading the podcast. If you know anybody, and senators or anything like that, talking to them. If you see them, hey, did you ever hear about this girl? I've talked to different senators. I've talked to congressmen before. Oh yeah. Well, we'll help you when the time comes. Well, the time's come, and I'm not hearing too much back. And I'm still trying to live my life as a mother with 3 children. Trying to, keep my job on focus. I have another career going on now since all this happened, in LA. But I'm trying to stay focused and get this done. And honestly, I'm not quite sure exactly what I need to do except keep talking louder, because it does need to be restructured.
Yeah.
If not abolished altogether. So I do not believe in children going into witness protection unless they can guarantee that they're not being that's a huge thing for me. All of the children that and we're not children anymore. I'm 47 years old.
Yeah.
But all of the children that I've talked to, they were put in the care of, by all definitions, serial killers. My father, by definition, was a serial killer. He killed many people. Cam Marie's father killed many people. My friend David's father killed many people. And they were given custody of us, and I'll never understand that. So should that be allowed to happen today? Just because they turned state's evidence, should they be able to go live happily ever after? Now, my father did go to prison. However, he only spent 8 years in prison.
Yep.
And then he was allowed to go out and do whatever, he wanted. He ended up committing 3 more murders. So, just spoiler alert, I guess.
Tune into the first episode, everybody, and
yeah!
you can hear all
It's in
about
the first episode. But, right, there you go. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's no documentation for that. There's no documentation of the suicide rate. And I've had a lot of struggles with my mental health. And unfortunately, I've drugged my kids through it with me throughout the years.
Can I ask you about that, Jackie? I mean,
Of course.
I've been a huge proponent. I'm not a proselytizer by any stretch of, people going to therapy or anything like that. But I've had, some people really close to me within this community that I help cover talk to me offline and just have real, meaningful conversations about how we feel as men and husbands and members of society and workers for companies and responsibilities and championing ourselves to go get in touch with medical professionals to help us navigate everyday life. None of us are kooks. None of us have had huge tragic experiences or, had anything that you would look at somebody and go, oh, that's very dramatic and traumatic and life-changing. That person might want to talk to somebody to help them deal with everything that's happened. We're just talking about everyday life. And even then, I think there continues to be a stigma over general health of your mental well-being and being able to say to somebody, hey, you know what? Some months I talk to somebody twice a month. And if I'm feeling really good, I'll stretch it out, maybe 6 weeks. And then within that 6 weeks, if I need to have it pick up again, it's this relationship that I have with this guy, and it works really good for me and all these other guys. And I try and bring it up as much as I can. I can't even begin to imagine how you and your therapist begin to get your arms around the monster of your life that you had, again, no part in wanting to be in. You were born into a family where your dad was, a criminal to the highest degree.
A rapist, a murderer,
felon,
a drug dealer, a
pimp. I mean,
I
he
know.
ran the gamut. And then, of course, later, as you talked about in life, committing 3 at the end. And you're kind of caught up into, oh, hey, you might want to come out here and you get this trunk and there's all this stuff. And And now it's like a whole new mind fuck that's going on. Aside from having grown up in the WITSEC program and having to deal with that, now you have this whole separate thing that's coming in. So from a mental perspective, Jackie, like over the years, how have you been able to get right, get good, be mentally healthy? I'm sure it's ongoing, but like, what does that picture look like for you? And people should be doing this, whether they're on your train or not. This is something that people need to feel comfortable talking about.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is always, one of the things that I like to talk about, when people say, is there anything else you want to talk about? Yeah, let's talk about mental health. I'm a huge, huge advocate of mental health. That is one thing that was left out of this equation when we were put into WITSEC. Have I struggled? Oh my God. Has my sister struggled? My brother? We've all struggled. However, now a lot of people think that, they could never compare to me, but trauma is trauma. So you losing your dog last week, that's still trauma, you're still going through a lot of those same emotions that I'm going through as loss. And, does it make me stronger? No, I figured out how to overcome. Am I sane? Oh my God, no, I need a lot of help. Ask my partners, those poor guys. My friends, I have a large circle of friends. There's some that I talk to about some things, some that I talk to about other things. I'm huge into suicide awareness. Why? Because I've been there. I've been there a lot. I have, unfortunately, I still have thoughts, almost daily. Can I help my feelings, my thoughts? No, I can't help them, but I can help what I do about them. And I can help people around me, and I can check on people around me. And sometimes, I had a new friend of mine, Danielle, that just reached out to me at the right time. And it just made me bawl last night. Because she doesn't know what I'm going through with everything in my life right now, but she just reached out. And sometimes it's just about that. It's about reaching out to people around you. This is a really weird time right now. We can't imagine what anybody's going through. A lot of people have either sobered up or gone down a rabbit hole of wine or drugs.
Yep.
And I've seen it happen. And it's terrifying to watch people around you dropping like flies because of all of this COVID. If that can take so many people, and not just by the illness itself, but of, by having to hole up. I'm still not out of my house completely yet. I have a fear of fame, for one thing. So I'm getting known more around here. So sometimes I just want to go to Albertsons and, get what I need to get and not talk to a lot of people, even though I'm very social. Sometimes I just don't want to talk about my childhood drama with so-and-so at Albertsons. But as far as mental health goes, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I am going to be on meds for the rest of my life. I was on one, then I was on another, and I just actually switched again 3 weeks ago. So I've been on meds since I think I was 16, and now I just switched again. So I'm kind of trying to monitor, listening to what are my friends saying, because I have to pay attention to if they're saying, Jackie, you're being a little emotional, you're being kind of bitchy, you're holding up, why haven't you answered me back, blah, 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 blah. I have to listen and pay attention to how my friends are, because I don't know if this medication's helping me. It feels like it's helping me. I have to pay attention to what my friends are saying and thinking. My close friends, everybody, other people, I don't care what anybody says about me, but does that make sense? It's nothing to be afraid. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's an organ. Your brain, and I preach this nonstop. Your brain is an organ. It has a chemical makeup. Your kidneys and your pancreas are also organs. So if you have diabetes and you're on insulin, type A or type 1, type 2, what is it? Type 1 diet, type 1 or type 2, sorry. You know, a lot of times you're on insulin. So you're taking care of yourself. You're checking your sugars. It's the same thing with your mental health. It's nothing to be ashamed of ever. And to find that good core group of people that you can talk to, or, you know, for your, like in your instance, you have this guy that you're talking to about certain things. I have people I can reach out to about certain things, other people I can reach out to about certain things. It's hard, honestly, it's hard for me to find a therapist that will take the time to get to know me and believe me. I've always had that struggle. A lot of them think that I'm crazy right off the bat, and I have to tell them to Google my name or listen to my podcast, which is ridiculous. My last therapist never called me back. I mean, am I that crazy?
Wow.
But I'm not going to take that personal, because I have other ways. I have other ways of coping. You know, going outside, getting out of the house, spending time with my animals, you know, doing good things. If I'm having a bad day, one thing that I've really just recently, I guess, realized is trying to please 4 out of my 5 senses. So with aromatherapy, which sounds like really tree hugger-ish or hippie-ish, but it's actually not. You know, a little peppermint, a little something, a little
Yeah.
lotus flower.
Eucalyptus?
I just started doing that. You know, just putting it on like a cold washcloth on my forehead so I can smell it, listening to good music, and eating freaking chocolate or something good. But taking control of 4 of my senses if I'm having a bad day. My son actually is really into, what is it, Connor? You do the you meditate. Yes, he just went like that. He meditates. So I was having a bad day and I was in California. He said, just go sit on the beach, do these breathing exercises. But sometimes it's all about, you know, just being good to yourself. Go sitting on the beach, doing things like that. And another thing that I'm just going on and on here, but this is huge to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to take a fucking nap. You really do. You know, I mean, honest to God, when I'm out of my mind, just really struggling mentally, sometimes I just need to go to sleep. And it's all better when I wake up. I know that sounds really stupid, but you know, it works. It really does. So there's a lot of things that you can do for yourself out there, and life is beautiful. It's a beautiful struggle, but every person in this world makes a difference. And a lot of people think that they don't, but I'm just the type of person that I don't care who you are, you know, I am freaking there. And I jump on a ledge with anybody and try to get them down because I've been there, and I don't ever want, I'm very sensitive to human suffering and struggling like that. So it's very passionate about it, as you can see.
Jack, you had mentioned something a couple minutes ago that kind of struck me. And I'm wondering, like, as you are, you know, bringing this podcast to fruition and it gets out there and then it gets traction, I mean, certainly you didn't think that, hey, we're going to put this out here and, you know, I'm going to get famous and we're going to be able to do all these other things. And
I kind of knew. I knew this was a crazy story. I kind of knew.
Totally agree. But did you ever think that this was going to be a thing where, as you had mentioned, if you're going to Albertsons or, you know, whatever shoe store, you know, at some point it's going to get out. Now you're going to have to relive this every single day, multiple times a day, and how that is going to potentially compound everything that you've been having to deal with. Because now it's like, oh, I just wanted to let everybody know what's going on. I want to tell people how to fix this. Don't talk to me about this shit every day. And now it's just like, bang, there's Jackie. Jackie, talk to me about this and talk to me about that.
You know, that's a very good point. That was something that I had not anticipated, but it's just kind of par for the course. It's Tina Turner just did a documentary about that. Somebody told me you should watch that. Kind of reminds me of you. And they're absolutely right. So when you see Tina Turner, you think about Ike Turner and, getting out of an abusive relationship. Tina Turner wants to be known for her music. She's a fabulous woman. She wants to be known for other things, not just that. And, I understand that this is my present day, but hopefully I'll be able to do the things that I want to do and be known for the things that I want to be known for. Is it this? Not really. If I'd like to be known for my work in mental health, my work with, people that have gone through some trauma, things like that. But
hopefully
it is what
changing
it is.
WITSEC at some point too in the near future.
Absolutely, and that's my end game. That's there's other things that I'd like to be known for. It is what it is right now, and it's got some legs on it, and I just hope that it keeps growing. And basically, I get a phone call from the marshals asking me, "What now?"
Yeah,
because I have a plan. I know what to do. I've been working with another friend of mine, Heather, and talking to her quite a bit about certain things that she's a data analyst, and she's got the best ideas. She's so smart. She's amazing. She's just intelligent. Just her intelligence. Just it's almost embarrassing to be sitting in the room with her when she's talking sometimes. So she's one of those, But she's got some great ideas, and it needs to be, things need to change. Things need to be restructured. The data needs to be analyzed. Numbers need to come out. We need to start figuring this out. Basically, every person on WITSEC needs to pretty much have their own agent, like a parolee. They need to be checked in on. Nobody checked in on my dad. He wrote letter after letter after letter, and I have them all.
Yep.
Just 3 weeks before what happened in Texas happened, he was writing letters, and lo and behold, nobody responded, and look what happened. So that's not okay. That needs to be changed. And that's why I'm just getting louder and louder. The more they ignore me, I just keep getting louder.
Can we... So I'm just indulging myself at this point, but I find myself when I'm listening at points where I go, man, what a bummer for Butch. Like maybe it's the way it's edited, maybe it's your storytelling and narration. Jackie, by the way, narrates the whole podcast, and she's phenomenal, so you should be listening to it immediately.
Thank you. Because I did go through speech therapy. For all my haters out there, I used to have a lisp.
Oh.
And somebody mentioned something on there, and I'm like, so I can't read the comments. It hurts my feelings.
No,
but thank you.
As a professional orator, I would say it is of the highest regard, no doubt.
Thank you.
It was a joy to listen
to.
Feel
good. Thank you.
But I found myself at times going, like, feeling some kind of empathy for him. And then I have to, like, pull myself back and go, wait a sec. This dude's a total scumbag. I mean, look what he did to his family. Look what he did to other people, blah, blah, blah. And I get what you're saying. I obviously want to side with the people in your position. If the marshals decided to turn a deaf ear to your dad or whoever else was a flipper at that point, okay, I can live with that. They were bad, really bad people, and maybe they should. But that shouldn't include you. How do you get your, I can't believe I never have trouble asking questions. How do you reconcile your dad with you? Is that even a question? Like, I
haven't even. My son's getting mad about something. Are you reading the comments? Oh, okay. Every day I feel different about my dad. Do you have children?
Yes, I have one in junior in college, 2B freshman in college, and a sophomore in high school. All girls.
Okay. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Remember holding your firstborn as a baby.
Yep.
Okay. You remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember how sweet and innocent and beautiful that baby was?
Oh, yeah.
All of them. Do you remember how sweet and beautiful and innocent they were? That was my father once upon a time.
Yeah.
What in the fuck happened? And that's another thing that I want to know what happened. How can we stop that kind of thing? What can we do to, if somebody would have stepped in at the right time, and I know that he did have a lot of intervention, but he never took it. Now, this was back in the 60s.
Sure, different time,
but,
for sure.
The 50s and 60s, because he was born in 1940. But, he wasn't properly intervened because he had a head on his shoulders like nobody what was the word that we used the other day off air?
Was it photostatic memory or something like that?
He remembered
Yeah.
everything. And, nobody caught on to that. Nobody developed into that. He was good at sports once upon a time. And how did he go off that path? What happened? He was taken away from his mom because she was, and I hate to use this phrase, but that's what they say, a deaf mute.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And that's saying that she's an unfit mom. But I always think about my father was once just this innocent, beautiful little baby. And and that's where, and he was a good dad once upon a time. What he did to people, to things, flipping on the club. Yes, I know he was a rat. I get a lot of flack about that. There's going to be a lot of comments talking about, well, he was just a rat. Yeah, I know he was a rat. This isn't about that. This is what happens to the family. This is collateral. I'm collateral damage
100%
of the U.S., the Department of Justice, the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, the ATF. They didn't take us into consideration and think about what our lives would be like 40 years later. And once again, I did not sign anything at 7 years old. I didn't. Neither did Camry Montiglio. Neither did my friend David. Neither did my friend Chris. Neither did my friend CJ. All of these people that are in the same shoes as me, nobody signed anything. But as for Butch, my feelings for him change every day. They do. I love him one day, I hate him the next. I'm really, it just hit me a couple of days ago and he's been dead 8 years, that I'm never going to get to see him again. I'm never going to get to talk to him again. I'm getting to know him through his death, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Fighting for him, not for him, but fighting for the children of Witsec. And like I said, what happened in Texas did not need to happen. They could have answered him, and they didn't. So somebody needs to be held accountable for that. And I'm going to make sure that that happens. Do I want sympathy? No. I would like some support. Our tax dollars are going into this program.
Yeah.
For what? Where's the money going? I want to see, what's the suicide rate at? There's U.S. Marshals said that there are no murders. There's never been a murder on the Witness Protection Program. Bullshit. I have documentation of at least 5. So, we need some congressional oversight here. Something needs to be done. Somebody needs to answer my phone calls.
If anybody's worried about your specific safety from the Hells Angels, and you can listen to it in the show, that's all something they don't necessarily need to be concerned about. You're not being hunted. You were technically never in danger from Jump Street anyway.
From the Hells Angels for that?
Right.
No, I was never in danger. Did they want my father? Of course. Do I know what they wanted to do with my father? I don't know. I can guess. But no, they're not. They don't kill women and children.
Right.
No, we were never in danger. In fact, my mother was very, very loved by the Angels. My mother was actually, for those of you that don't know, my mother was a Catholic schoolgirl who went to Catholic nursing school, who then went to work at a Catholic hospital as a nurse. So at 30 years old, she jumped on the back of a Hells Angel motorcycle. Just happened. There's a little story behind that. But it happens. It's the really real world, I guess. But she was the sweetheart of the club. They all loved her. They were never after her. That was all fictated to encourage my mother to jump into WITSEC so that they could get some more information out of my father, and he would participate fully. Did he participate fully? Yeah, he did everything, that they wanted him to do, probably a little bit more. And, nothing, we were basically just dumped and left. That's the reality of the witness protection program. Am I speaking ill of it? Hell yes, I am, because it needs to be reformed. So if anybody's out there right now that is currently thinking about possibly, if something's going on in your life that has to do with this, I'm telling you right now, this is not the way to go. The system is very, very flawed. There are other ways. And for God's sake, don't take your children into it.
Jackie, go ahead and give a shout out and promotion to the folks that put on the production and anybody else you would like to mention this evening.
Zach from Cadence 13, thank you for everything that you've done. I'd also like to my partners at Outlaw Archives. You can follow them on Instagram. There's a lot of old MC history in there. He's incredible. Doing a lot of work with them. We are looking to try to publish my father's manuscript. I told you it was 650 pages long, so it's incredible. Thanks to all my friends, everybody that's stuck around. Thanks to my son Connor, sitting here, my sound guy. He's always my sound guy. But yeah, just thanks to everybody. Thanks Danielle, my new sweet friend. Kelly Mosier, I love you. Thanks all you guys, and thanks to my sister for having my back.
You can follow Jackie over on the Twitter at Hell's Little Angel, and it's ANGL. If you want to make sure you follow her, is that right?
Yep, and I'm also on Instagram, Hell's Little Angel 74, which I did get some flack from the club, but kind of earned that name, guys. Sorry. Not going to change unless you want me to put it in all caps.
Is Angel spelled out on Instagram, or do you take the E out of that as well, like on Twitter?
It's spelled out, so it's Hell's Lil Angel 74.
All right.
Yep.
So follow Jackie over there as well.
Oh, and can I do one more big shout out?
Yes.
Riverport Barbecue in Jefferson, Texas.
All right. Look at you.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Oh my God, Riverport Barbecue, Jefferson, Texas, the best barbecue place ever. So if you're on board with Texas barbecue, I will be there next week, hopefully. Right. It's wonderful. It's my favorite.
The show is called, or podcast documentary is called Relative Unknown. You can find it on all the podcast platforms. I found it on Apple, but it's also on Google because I have a Google phone. I also have it on there too, so I can listen all the time. And do you have a website or anything else you'd like to promote, Jackie?
No, just follow me on Instagram and Outlaw Archives. We're doing lots of stuff. So, and listen to Relative Unknown, please, and share it, talk about it. It's just an interesting story, and it's something that we need to know about because our tax dollars are going in to the Federal Witness Protection Program. Know the real story.
It's an incredible interview, Jackie. It's exceeded expectation. I knew there was probably a no doubt it was going to hit, but it's even better than I expected. Reaction is great here on Instant Chat and through the emails that I've gotten over the time we've been talking. I appreciate all the time tonight. I held you much longer than I anticipated, but when it's this good, okay. I won't even take breaks. I'll catch up on all that after I turn you loose, but I certainly appreciate it. When you get back to Cleveland, give me a heads up. I'd love to meet you in person, and
I will.
We can cruise Bomb City together. I didn't even know that was a nickname. I didn't know Cleveland was nicknamed Bomb City,
USA.
City? Oh my God, I can't believe it.
The Alley Cat Oyster Bar. That's another good. Yeah, we'll have to meet up there like we planned.
All right. Sounds good. So, Jackie, once again, appreciate the time this evening, and good luck to you. If you need me, holler, and we'll see you around.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
You got it. There she is, Jackie Taylor, right there. Wow. I mean, if I thought that was going to be the segment of 2021, I was right. Good for me. That's it. Unbelievable story, unbelievable background, unbelievable day-to-day that she's going through. Got to be one of the strongest people on the face of the earth. Got to be one of the strongest people with what she's went through. If you haven't heard the program, you have to get it immediately. And as I said, once you get through the first half of the first episode, especially, this isn't just to the crime folks. I mean, crime podcasts are super popular at this point. But this is really great storytelling. And you might find yourself multiple times through the episodes going, is this real? Yes, this is real. This really happened. True account, autobiographical work, in a sense, biographical work, more than autobiographical, obviously. But dictated through Clarence Butch Crouch's writings and recounts of his life, which I believe is what that book is that Jackie was mentioning, or the manuscript, The Hate and Discontent. So I can't thank her enough. Absolutely great guest. Truly open. Love the mental health piece. Probably more than anything else. Love her openness. I love the fact that she's willing to help WITSEC get their shit together. So, WITSEC, get your shit together. Call Jackie. Call her friends. She seems to have a group of experts that are all in this program that have been able to knock down the worst parts of it and tell you how to fix it. I mean, what are we waiting for? She's not lying. They're not lying. They're living it. You're lying to yourselves that this is a great program. They have the proof. They have the experience. Hit them up immediately, and let's get this thing corrected. All right, let me play a little catch-up here. Apologize for a couple back-to-backs, but well worth it. First, head on over to Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue and grilling. A curated selection from Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. First, the rubs and seasonings. They got 13 perfectly balanced flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow. All proven winners on the competition circuit and in backyards like mine. It's the only ones I use. Mostly, every once in a while, I'll mix it something. But I'm a tried true Big Papa guy. Now, if you like sauce, they also own Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everyone, or try something new outside of the box that isn't like the run-of-the-mill, then Granny's is something you want to try. And, of course, they're selling the smokers and grills. Check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker on BigPapaSmokers.com. Big Papa's the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers, take a look at that Old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal cooker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, call them, 877-828-0727. Or you can shop their website at BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BigPoppa Smokers.com. Okay. And I will also talk to you about Primo grills, ceramic cookers, or so. Meathead was talking about how popular a certain brand of ceramic cookers. Well, Primo is going to be the new other brand, okay? Rapidly becoming number one here in the marketplace. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for the traditional barbecue meats. We also love that it can get rip-roaring hot for grilling steaks and other thin cuts as well. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professionals and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker, not very realistic. Why? Because it's round and a Primo. The oval design changing the game. The shape gives you the ability to execute two-zone cooking that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. Really, when you break it down, there are more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. We all know the lift hinge has been revamped. It gives you that nice 8-pound lift, which is really light. There were also revamps done on the top and bottom air dampers. But if you're wanting more and more and more, Primo has you covered. The most anticipated accessory to date is getting ready to launch, the Primo Grill Rotisserie. Actually, that's out now. It gives you incredible food. Everybody loves chicken with it. Go to primogrill.com and find a dealer near you and pick one up. Coming out a little bit later, Primo Grill's pizza accessory. Everybody loves high heat pizza. You can do it on your Primo now. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? Uh-huh. True two-zone cooking? Yes. Multiple sizes? Yes. If you just have to have a round one, fine. They have a round one. Might I beg that you really get the oval for Pete's sake? PrimoGrill.com for a dealer near you, or check them out on Facebook and Instagrams. Primo, I'm ready for a Primo. Who's ready for a Primo? I am. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this show. Be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show brought to you by Smithfield. Head to smithfield.com through the grilling season for recipes as well as tips and tricks from Chris Lilly and Darren Warmth, Childs Cridland. Mouth-watering flavor, no artificial ingredients, Smithfield fresh pork. Quite simply, some of the finest pork money can buy, and you can find them at smithfield.com. Don't forget smoking with smithfield.com to report your first place finishes in ribs and shoulder if you're a committed cook. Also, by Vortic Watch, a small batch custom watch manufacturing and vintage restoration company. Located in northern Colorado, they take antique American pocket watches and turn them into wristwatches just like this one. Their mission, preserve and enhance the legacy of manufacturing in America. In order to do that, they combine traditional and cutting-edge technology to create unique quality, functional timepieces with exceptional value. And here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. Nobody gets it like you get it when you buy it. Vortic, founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out VorticWatch.com. And thanks again to Jackie Taylor. Relative Unknown is the podcast / documentary podcast, podumentary, docucast, whatever you like. I'm going to trademark all of those, so use them soon because quickly I will sue you after they get trademarked. You can follow her on the Twitter at Hell's Little Angel, ANGL, and on Instagram at Hell's Little Angel. I'm sorry, it was at Hell's Lil, L-I-L, at Hell's Lil Angel 74 on Instagram, so follow her over there. I think the podcast is Relative Unknown. You're going to love it. You got to listen to it. You listen to it and then tell me if I'm stupid. I don't think I'm stupid, but I think this one's a lock. All the way back in the first hour was Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. I sent him the link from What's I Ad, and he said, hey, you know, this is a global market, okay? You don't count. All right. Fair enough. Go to AmazingRibs.com for your pizzacini recipes or your tomato raisin recipes. You can also listen to us talk about technology of live fire between Weber and Meter and Traeger recently. Great conversation with Meathead in the first hour. Second hour plus, Jackie Taylor, Relative Unknown. That's the podcast documentary, Relative Unknown. You can follow her on Twitter at Hell's Little Angel, ANGL, or on Instagram at Hell's Lil, Lil, at Hell's Lil Angel 74. Next week is the third week of August, if you can believe it. We have the likes of Stephen Reichland coming in, amongst many others, so get ready for that. Maybe Susie Bullock is lined up, or is it? Who is it? Maybe Daniel Vaughn, actually? Could be Daniel Vaughn now. I think it might be his time. We'll see. There's going to be a quarterly guest in the second hour you're not going to want to miss, plus many others. How do I always leave? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Sam the Cooking Guy, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Some call him a fool, some even call him a douchebag, but I say Greg Rempe is the greatest thing to happen to barbecue since cavemen.